Hello, and welcome to the Pan Global Resources presentation on the La Romana extension. I'm Jason Mercier, Vice President, Investor Relations and Communications for Pan Global. With me today is CEO and President Tim Moody. Thank you for taking time out of your day to join us to hear about the La Romana extension, which has now extended to 1.35 kilometers long of strike. The results we published yesterday are very exciting. The first 150 meters that we've done of the target, we've got another 350 meters of target to drill, and that drilling is ongoing right now. I guess there's a few points I'd like to make before we hand it over to Tim. The La Romana deposit obviously has had 160 holes to date. 98% of those have hit mineralization. It was always expected that Romana West target would be the extension of that, but we had to test that. So these 6 holes confirm what our geologists and what Tim have thought all along, is that the mineralization does continue to the west. The extension of La Romana is also of interest because of the not just the copper grades, but the tin grades that are increasing as we go to the west. Tin, as you may know, is valued at 3 to 4 times what copper is. So if you have a 0.2% of tin, that translates to 0.6 or 0.8% copper at the end of the day when you do a copper equivalent. Obviously, there's some losses for processing and for recoveries. So we don't know the tin metallurgy at this point, but we'll be knowing that soon. Something to take into consideration when looking at value of this. Another aspect that continues to offer upside for investors is that the mineralization is continuing to the west, and it's open. It's also open down dip. So for us, at this point with the program we're running the near surface drilling. Most of the mineralization is being found under just a very small layer of sediments. So what we're looking at is just the first 200 meters. To the east, in the main La Romana, we've found grades at much deeper depths, and Tim can speak to that. A couple of housekeeping items today. We've had some, actually, a number of advanced questions that have come, but if you think of a question during the call, please put it into the chat, and we'll address that at the end of the presentation. Please also note that the presentation is being recorded, and it will be available on the Pan Global website following the presentation. I would now like to hand it over to Tim Moody, President and CEO. Tim?
Yeah, hi, thanks, Jason, and welcome everybody to our, I guess, second webinar in as many weeks. So this really, as Jason said, this webinar is just prompted by the news that we put out earlier this week on the first drilling at Romana West. So just a couple of reminders, I guess. I think, as I've said previously, I think Pan Global is very well positioned, and I'm certainly working hard to make sure we are well positioned such that when the market turns around, we're in obviously a fairly difficult bear market at the moment, but when things do turn around, that we are one of the better opportunities, investment opportunities for companies out there. We have a new copper discovery, relatively new copper discovery in a great location, something that has the potential to be put into production before the end of this decade. These are unique attributes amongst the other new potential discoveries and new mines around the world. So we're not competing with the big porphyries, etc. We have obviously a very good board and a great team on the ground, so we can take the project all the way forward. And I'm very confident that if there's something to be found in the property that we've got, that we will find it. And I think, as the previous webinar discussed, was the recent results on one of our other targets called Cañada Honda. But now this is the first drilling on our Romana West target, and we'll discuss a bit more about that today. Just a reminder, we're in our flagship project, the Escacena Project, where discovery is is in the famous Iberian Pyrite Belt. It's a very prolific mining area. There's 7 big operating mines there. It's very active. New discoveries are being made, and we're in one of the better locations within the Pyrite Belt, the far eastern end of the belt, 30 minutes drive outside of the city of Seville. Got excellent access, etc. There's also a smelter owned by Freeport down at Welver, about 70 kilometres away from us. Just zooming in on our project location, the area outlined here in yellow, it's about 5,700 hectares. Just to the west of us, Atalaya are mining a large open pit copper deposit. It's actually the world's biggest volcanogenic massive sulphide deposit. It's somewhat of a benchmark for us in the sense that they're mining copper. They use a very low cutoff, about 0.15%. Reserve grades about 0.39% copper. So, we're getting better grades than that. So fingers crossed. Right next door to us, 2 old open pits, one of which is being, both are now held by Grupo Mexico, who are looking to recommence mining there. And then further to the east, First Quantum had the Las Cruces mine, which was one of the world's highest grade open pit copper mines. Now they're looking to go underground as well. So our La Romana discovery is located in the southern part of their project area. Again, this is a gravity anomaly map. This just shows we are still target rich. We have many targets that we haven't tested. Some we've only just begun testing. A week or so ago, I discussed some of the early results we've got from the Kenyatta Honda target up to the north. Today I'll be talking about Romana, the drilling at Romana West, which is really the western extension of La Romana. Okay, so this is an updated map. This shows the 0.2%, well, in this case, a copper equivalent grade shell, and it shows the extent of the mineralization that we've found at Romana. And now with the drilling that we released, drill results we released earlier this week, for another 6 holes, we've extended that mineralization a further 150 meters, giving us now about 1.35 kilometers of strike length, with the mineralization coming to surface in the south and dipping to the north. So I think that's very good news. I think the other thing is that it remains wide open to the west, and it's open at depth as well. So, this is going to grow. This was important confirmation for us that the mineralization did continue. Some of the gravity modeling suggests that there might be a break in the gravity about the boundary of a farm that we've been waiting to get access to. But now we can safely say that the mineralization is continuing, and it's alive and well. And I think a couple of other important features of the mineralization were, one, it was again very shallow. We hit mineralization in I think down here at hole 166 at just 7 meters depth. We think that started in mineralization immediately beneath the shallow post mineral cover. So we think that we didn't hit the full width of that mineralization. So we're getting intervals of sort of 15 to 17 meters of about 0.7% copper equivalent. Importantly, with high tin. So some of the tin seems to be increasing towards the west. And as Jason said, tin's a pretty valuable commodity. 3 to 4 times the price of copper. So I think from an exploration perspective, it's also potentially indicating a hotter part of the system. So in other words, we may be seeing a stronger part of the system as we go further west. So again, that's another pointer to the potential that mineralization could get better as we continue the drilling further to the west. Another observation was, this is a cross section with some of the new drill results. Again, this is hole 166 showing the drill hole cutting through going through the thin layer of cover and straight into copper mineralization. And that's why we think actually the true width of the mineralization is wider than what we've actually intersected in this instance. Just down dip, 17 meters at 0.65, but includes 6 meters of 1.24% copper equivalent, again with nearly 0.3% tin, which is pretty high. So some observations here. Very simple geometry, same as what we saw further to the east. It's not folded, not faulted. This is ideal geometry for an open pit. And it looks like we have a second layer to the south, which is similar to what we saw further to east at La Romana. So it remains very much open at depth. Just another picture here. This is showing a picture showing the gravity anomaly. This is the main La Romana target, that what we targeted initially with our first drilling, where we had 160 drill holes. And now this is showing the location of the new drill holes. Well, we think this is just one interpretation of the gravity, suggesting the target may be getting stronger to the west. So based on the results at the moment, I think we'll stop using the word Romana West, and we'll just refer to it all as one target, La Romana. But we're pretty confident that the mineralization, we haven't hit the best yet in the west, and all the pointers are that we're going to get better grades and thicknesses as we progress further west with the drilling that we've got going at the moment. So we've completed another 7 drill holes. We finished another one yesterday. So we're just about halfway through the 25-hole program in the west. These are all step-out drill holes. So we're continuing to step out cover another 350 meters of strike. And if all of those holes hit and the mineralizations continue, then we'll look to plan additional drilling. But at this stage, this is just looking to take some fairly broad step outs, long strike to the west, see if there's continuity of the mineralization, and then we'll look to plan further drilling on the back of that. Another point is we're just drilling pretty shallow at the moment. We're not looking to chase the mineralization deeper and deeper just at this point. Obviously finding mineralization close to surface is the best use we can deliver, really, because that's the cheapest, lowest cost to mine. It's the easiest to get to, etc. I should have also mentioned the other reason to be optimistic that things could get better to the west is the presence of the old mine workings. So some of the drilling that we've just completed now and the drilling that's ongoing will be testing further to the west beneath these old mine workings. So that's something to look forward to as well. All right, just to sort of summarize things, where we're at with La Romana, I think this will be a mine someday. That I strongly believe that. We've got a lot of very favorable attributes. The combination of copper with tin and silver, excellent metallurgy from the results that we've published so far. We're still, as Jason mentioned earlier, we're still waiting on the tin metallurgy results. They should be, hopefully, we'll have something to report perhaps in the next month or so. The mineralization is very continuous. It's very predictable. The geometry is great for an open pit. Comes to surface in some areas, otherwise has a very thin layer of cover. Add to that the locational advantages that I mentioned before, and copper being on the critical minerals list in Europe is also a help for us, and we should also help the fast tracking of this through the permitting to become a future mine. We covered some of this on the last webinar, the catalysts we set out to hit earlier this year, the metallurgical test work, which for the copper, which was excellent, the land access, which we got to the west, and we hit the ground very quickly. I should say that drilling we've been doing at Romana West that we reported this week, we started that drilling within a few weeks of getting access. And then, of course, there's the ongoing drill results, and we reported some of the results from Kenyatta Honda last week. We're already starting to plan the next phase of drilling at that target. And I still think we could be on the edge of quite an important discovery at Kenyatta Honda. A little bit different than La Romana in that it has its copper and gold rather than copper and tin. but we'll take it anyway. Okay, look, I think I'll just leave it there, Jason, but thanks everyone. I look forward to taking your questions and answering some of those that have been put to us already.
That's great. Thank you very much, Tim. We'll now enter the Q&A section. The advanced questions will start in now, and then we'll address the ones that have come up in the chat. Feel free to add your question to the chat if something comes to mind right now. First question, Tim. The intercepts I see from other copper projects in North or South America seem to be around the same grade, but are much longer. I recognize some of the other deposits are deeper and more remote, but what is the difference between what Pan Global has and these other copper projects? Does it make an economic difference for investors?
Yes, well, there are some differences and some important differences. Obviously, we're not trying to compete with the very big porphyry copper deposits, and there's been some great discoveries and great news in the last couple of years there. But the porphyry deposits come with much bigger capital and technical risk. Some of the mineralization is deeper, yes, very long intercepts and so on, and they can take a very long period of time to get into production. 20 years is not uncommon. So that's one difference with what we've got. In the world of volcanogenic massive sulphide deposits, of which our La Romana deposit falls into that category, the average is about 10 million tonnes, 8 to 10 million tonnes. Yes, whereas in the province that we're looking at, the average is much more than that, sort of 20 to 30 million tonnes, and there are a number of deposits 200 or 300 million tonnes. So they can get very big. So I think what we've got is near surface copper mineralization. Those grades we know from what Atalaya are mining are more than adequate for open pit mining. We've got very little terrain to deal with. It's almost very flat topography. The geometry is excellent. All of these things which are going to lower the mining costs. And then you include the favorable metallurgy, all of these other things that it helps to make it more valuable. Another important feature of this style of mineralization is it tends to have a higher density. By that, what I mean is for a cubic meter of rock, a porphyry copper deposit might have a density of 2.6. This might have the mineralization that we have might have a density of 3 to 4, and sometimes even more than that, which means you can fit a lot more tonnes of that grade in the same volume of rock as you would in a porphyry situation. You might have twice as much copper, or at least 50% more copper in that volume of rock. So that's an important distinction as well. That's great.
So next question is there potential for more drilling south of holes 166 and 164? It seems the plan is to drill in the northern portion of the anomaly only.
Actually, we're drilling to the west. So the objective has been to progress the drilling progressively from east to west, continue to follow the mineralization in the same direction as the La Romana trend. So there is that's the 25-hole plan, drill hole plan that we had at Romana West was really designed to be a number of sort of step outs, tracing the mineralization over about 500 meters to see if the mineralization continues over that strike length, and only at the shallow depths. So we don't have any plans at this point to continue to chase the mineralization deeper or chase it further to the south. We can see the mineralization is open deeper, and which is to the north, but that will add more tonnes. But what will add most value to us at the moment is to continue to find that near surface extension. So that's the primary target. We do see some potential to the south as well. Interestingly, I showed on the cross section that there are 2 layers of mineralization. Some places we see more, but that southern layer seems like it's getting better to the west. but it also it probably daylights a bit further south of where we were drilling. So we see that as a potential future target for drilling further to the south as well, where we might get some additional what they call supergene enrichment, where the weathering of the rock causes the copper to concentrate closer to surface.
That's great. Next question. What are the program objectives for Romana West today? And in confirming the continuity of the mineralization, do the results change the plan for the development potential of the project area?
Yeah, so the plan at the moment is to stick with the plan, complete the 25-hole program. Hopefully, we show that the mineralization is continuing, and if it does, then we'd look to add more drilling, and continue to chase the mineralization until we reach the natural limits of the to the west. And then, of course, we'll look at evaluate the potential to drill further down dip and to the south, like I mentioned before. But at the moment, it's just to complete the remaining 12 holes, which will give us a good idea whether the mineralization is continuing over that 500 meters or so of strike length. In terms of development, the implications for that, well, this would potentially expand the size of an open pit. I think what we've got at the moment, there's indications that what we've already been modelling has the potential to be economic as an open pit operation. So anything additional that we find, all this what we're drilling at the moment, would be in addition to what we've already been modelling. So, in other words, it will add to the NPV potentially of this project. So it's really important, and I think it will. If we add another 500 meters to this, it means we've got a longer, a bigger pit, more tons. So it could change the scenario and certainly the economics of the project considerably.
And I guess as background to this, obviously there's a number of operations nearby with Grupo Mexico developing the underground at Los Frailes, and you've got First Quantum 12 kilometers to the east, and then you've got Atalaya with the original Rio Tinto mine, which is still going very strong now about 25 kilometers to the northwest. So as a second part of that same question was, if you've expanded La Romana, instead of trucking ore to another facility, would it make more economic sense to have one mill and mine several area deposits at Escacena?
Yeah, well, I think really, obviously the other mines have plants already. Grupo Mexico they'll build a plant as well. So yeah, they're ahead of us in terms of the permitting. They've got the mining permit. They're just waiting for the water, one part of the water permit before they can get going on the construction. So yeah, there will be other infrastructure. There is already other infrastructure all around us. So I don't see if the question was more about, well, could Escacena become the centre and other mines bring ore to us? I think it's more likely to be the other way around, just given the sequence and the presence of existing operations around us. So, but look, the more we find, the more attractive, I guess, we become as for other surrounding producers, but also it becomes more attractive as a standalone project. But look, there's this potential synergies for truck, and the cost benefits of potentially of trucking ore or conveyor belting ore to one of the other mines remains.
Next question, what is the significance of the tin and increasing tin grades to the west? Is tin typical in the pyrite belt? If so, are there examples that you have?
Yeah, I get this question quite a lot, because tin is not that common in this type of deposit, and it's not that common in the Iberian Pyrite Belt. But that said, tin in volcanogenic massive sulphide deposits tends to only occur in very big copper-rich bare-mest ore bodies. So two of the best examples that I point to are the Neves Corvo mine in the same belt as we're with the Lundina mining today. Phenomenal ore body, high grade, very big. and Kidd Creek, another one in Canada, which is also very big, copper rich, and has tin as well. So from an exploration point of view, when we first recognised the potential, the cassiterite mineralisation, the tin, we saw the potential for this to be a big deposit. So, I guess that's what we're confirming. In the world of VMS, what we've got already is well above the average. We're probably double. Look, the significance from an exploration point of view was there right from the beginning. From an economic perspective, tin, as Jason mentioned earlier, is a valuable metal. It's typically trades 3 to 4 times the price of copper, so it's a very good addition potentially. What we need to know is how can you recover it? How much of it can you recover? The good news for us is that the tin is occurring in the mineral cassiterite. Now, cassiterite is the ideal mineral for metallurgical extraction of tin. So, we're very fortunate. We've not seen any other tin mineral. There's a trace of a mineral called velomorphite, which very few people have even heard of, but it's insignificant. It's essentially 100% cassiterite. So I think we're very optimistic that we'll be able to get a good portion of that tin, and it'll make a great big addition to the economics of this of our discovery.
And as a follow-up question, what are the recoveries like for tin generally?
Yeah, well, obviously that depends on different types of deposits, but if you can get a 50% recovery, that's a very good result generally for tin. It really depends a lot on grain size as well. So if you've got cassiterite, that's the first step. We've got that, so that should help things a lot. The second is when it becomes very, very fine, it becomes much harder to recover. So for sure, we'll have some fine cassiterite. But one thing that is encouraging is that we've got visible cassiterite, coarse cassiterite. So that lends itself to potentially low cost gravity separation methods. So that's good news for us. But that's the work that's going on at the moment, just to see what sort of recoveries we can get. But at the moment, we used for our copper equivalent calculation, I think it was 0.59% 59% recovery as the assumption. That was just based on some preliminary work that the metallurgists have been doing. But this is very much a work in progress. But that is a good result from the early work so far.
Great. Another question related to tin. Would you consider the higher grades of tin, as well as the other metals found, such as cobalt, at Romana West, to be another discovery?
Well, to some extent, it is a new tin discovery as well. Could we have a separate tin? Could we call it a tin deposit? Well, let's see how the tin evolves. But at Neves-Corvo, the tin had a slightly different geometry, a different footprint to the main copper mineralization. But Neves-Corvo was Europe's largest tin mine for a number of years. So look, it remains to be seen. But to some extent, it is already a new tin discovery as well. So certainly with some of the grades we're seeing in some of the holes we reported this week, 0.2, 0.3% tin. That's pretty attractive. We could be looking at a cutoff for tin of maybe 0.03. So fingers crossed.
When you look at the graphic in the presentation, Romana West appears to be a separate anomaly compared to the original La Romana discovery that PanGlobal first drilled. Now that you've got results back from Romana West, and you've done some geophysics work, does the company see it the same way?
Yeah, so there's different ways to model the gravity, and there did seem to be, from one of the processing we did, sort of a break right along the fence boundary, coincidentally. And so as you collect more information and you do collect down hole, in other words, gravity information density information from the rocks as you drill it, you put that back into your model and you refine it. So look, we are constantly updating and refining our gravity model, our density model, etc. But I think what we've seen with the drill bit is that the mineralization actually does continue all the way through, but it is encouraging that it looks like from this latest model here that we've got if you like, a peak in the gravity further to the west, much more closer to the old mine workings, and that could suggest that we might have some even better, stronger mineralization as we move in that direction.
Next question. I think for investors, it seems difficult to balance the sheer size of La Romana versus banking on another discovery. You're expanding the La Romana discovery, but are also looking at potential discoveries like Cañada Honda. Can you comment on this?
Yeah, look, I think as I've pointed out in a number of other presentations I've given over the years, these types of ore bodies often occur in clusters. And there are many examples of that in the Iberian Pyrite Belt. The Neves-Corvo deposit that I mentioned before is made up of 7 different ore bodies over an area of 3 kilometers by 4 kilometers. It took them 20 years to find all of those deposits, I should add, and they're very, very deep. We're looking pretty shallow here. So in terms of getting to some perhaps what we think is a good target here, 40 or 50 million ton deposit, it might actually come from a cluster of deposits. So the more you find in close proximity, the more that would feed into a common plant. So it certainly we should expect, and certainly the geological track record in the Iberian Pyrite Belt is that if you find one, you'll find another. So that's why we think we've got a very good chance of finding additional deposits. But it's certainly going to help us get to a much bigger sort of total tonnage, and obviously that will help revalue the company. If we make another significant discovery at Cañada Honda or one of the other targets there, that should really be a game changer for Pan Global and for investors, and hopefully we'll get the recognition in the share price.
Now that Romana West drilling is well underway, when do you expect to have a resource out on La Romana, and how many million tons do you expect that to be?
Yeah, so we took the decision some time ago that we didn't want to rush out a resource until we knew broadly how big this could be. So if we can, the idea at the moment is by drilling to the west, is to give us some idea how far it extends to the west. And then once we've got an idea then of it's 1.5 kilometers long, or longer, or whatever, then we can sort of start to model that and then look to put out a resource. I don't think we need to drill at the same densities we've been drilling at La Romana, given it's so simple, it's very predictable, etc. So in terms of timing, it really depends on how the mineralization progresses. If it continues, I think we'll need to do another round of drilling, but I would hope that we can be coming out with a resource sometime next year.
Great. Final question from the advanced questions that we received. Last week, you spoke about Cañada Honda and the potential discovery there. What is the plan for that target now? Will you launch a drill program? How many holes do you think it will take to test it?
Yeah, so we're already planning. We've actually planned a few additional drill holes at the moment. We're still working on that. We were still waiting on a little bit more modelling from the downhole electromagnetic surveys that we did, which is giving us some indication of where to put some of the drill holes. But I expect we'll have a drill plan sorted out for that target over the next couple of weeks. In terms of starting that program, I think we'll get the drilling out of the way at La Romana that we've currently got planned, and then we'd look to start drilling at Cañada Honda again. If we, it might also depend on the funding situation. We'll need going into next year. We'll need to top our balance sheet up to to conduct another strong drill program.
Great, thank you. Turning to the chat questions from KE. The recent assay results include some of the highest tin grades reported in the Escacena project area, with assays up to 0.62% tin. Coarse cassiterite was observed in both Zone B and Zone C. Importantly, cassiterite is the only tin mineral observed. Are you aware of any of our neighbors that have planned capacity and capability to process tin?
No, the only other operation in the district, in this mining belt that had tin processing was Neves-Corvo. That the tin extraction, I think, stopped some years ago now. So there is no other tin operation. Tin, it shouldn't be a big difference to a processing flow sheet, in the sense that the tin has a different, cassiterite has a different physical property to the copper mineralization. Firstly, cassiterite's a very dense, very heavy mineral, so it may be possible to separate it using generally a low-cost gravity separation method. One thing we're trying to work out is, could we do an upfront gravity separation? In other words, start to separate the tin early on as part of the processing flow sheet. But gravity processing is not so expensive. It's a cheap addition to a plant. And then the alternative way, or in addition to gravity, you can use flotation. Because it's such a dense mineral, tin, it has a specific gravity of about 7.2 or thereabouts. It also it behaves differently in flotation. So you could float the copper concentrate off, and then you would treat the residual tails to extract the cassiterite. So it'd just be an addition to an existing flow sheet, flotation flow sheet.
Second question from KE. Sulphide mineralization was intersected in all holes at depths, predicting from modeling of previous drilling and geology data. As drilling moves closer to the historical mine workings at Romana West, how do you see the level of confidence from the modeling to guide drilling to hit more mineralization at depth versus near surface?
Well, at the moment, it's continuing from the drilling we've just reported. We're seeing that the mineralization remains very predictable. That constant dip, it's very continuous. So that is a very good guide for us. The guide to what grades and thicknesses you might get, that's a little harder, but we have some other geophysics there to help us with that. The gravity is one thing, but that's not so precise, but it's certainly helpful. But we're also using things like IP, so induced polarity surveys. So we're using that as well, and that would be very helpful for looking at the deeper mineralization in particular. But as I said, we're at the moment just more interested in looking at near surface, in other words, the top 200 meters, following the geology further to the west at this point. But we'll also use downhole electromagnetics as well. That's been very effective as we drill deeper and look for nearby, stronger concentrations of sulphide mineralization.
Great. And looking at slide 9 that we've got up there, Ryan Walker has a question. Why is there a gap in planned drilling in and around the old Roman workings?
Yes, there's a creek that runs right through here. That's why the old Romans, probably, we think it's Roman mine workings. Why that copper was exposed, because the creek cut through the post-sedimentary cover. So it's just more of a logistical issue at the moment to try and get right in close to those mine workings. But that's something we'll have to look at. It's certainly more. It's easier where we're drilling at the moment. We're drilling around the edges of the olive farm areas and between the olive trees, etc. But as we get into close to the creek, there's a lot more sort of trees, and it's a little bit more logistically challenging.
And just jumping ahead here, because we'll return, there's a couple of questions about Bravo that I'm seeing. So from Jim McLean, how many rigs are currently being used, and what is the current rough estimate of remaining treasury?
Yeah, okay. So we've currently got one drill rig running. We did have, well, for the first quarter this year, we had 3 rigs running full speed, and during summer we typically slow down. Sometimes we stop drilling altogether for a couple of weeks at least in the hottest months, hottest period of summer. We actually kept a rig running all the way through summer this year. So we've just kept that running at the moment. Still warm, but certainly not as hot as it was at the moment. But so we intend to continue just with the one rig at the present time. What was the other part of the question, Jason?
What is the current rough estimate of remaining treasury?
Yeah, we had at the end of last month about 3 million or thereabouts. So yeah, and obviously we're burning money as we're spending money as we continue the drilling. I should say we're doing less geophysics at the moment, so the dollars are stretching further. But yeah, we'll need to raise some money before too long.
And I guess finally on Bravo, the timing of access to Bravo, and then can you comment about it specifically as a target?
Yeah, so the Bravo target is a high priority for us. It's a big gravity anomaly. I'm not sure if I can go back here. So Bravo target, there's La Romana. There's the Bravo target just to the east. Yeah, it's a very prominent gravity anomaly. The geology is trending in that direction. And we also have some airborne or heliborne electromagnetics anomalies around the edge of that. And we have some old Exxon IP around the edge, all of which are indicating the potential for mineralization associated with this gravity anomaly. So, you know, it's, given its proximity to La Romana and what we found there and those other geophysics indicators, this remains a very high priority for us. So in terms of timing to get access to it, we're still working on that. I was sort of optimistic we'd get access to it before the end of this year. I'm still hopeful that will be the case, but we will get access to it. It's not a question of if, it's just when. Yeah, I can't say anything more about that at this stage, but yeah, those discussions with the farmer, etc., the owner of the land, they'll continue. We do have a resolution from the government giving us the access. Apparently there was an error in that needs to be corrected, but that shouldn't affect things too much. But we will get access to it.
Great. Well, with no more questions in the chat, that will conclude the question and answer portion. I want to thank everyone for taking time out of your day to be with us for the presentation on the extension for La Romana. I think there's a few points to remember of why yesterday's news was so significant. It essentially proved out a positive result for the planned drilling. We know that the mineralization is continuing to the west. The mineralization remains open to the west and open down dip. And the fact that it remains near surface just below cover is something that also provides a lot of value. If there's any topics that we haven't addressed today or any questions that we've missed, we'll be following up on those. But please feel free to contact us with those. And we look forward to hearing from you soon. Tim, any final comments?
No, I'll be speaking at the Metals Investors Forum in Vancouver at the end of this week. So if any of you are in Vancouver at present, yeah, feel free to drop by our booth. I think Jason, you'll be there as well.
Yeah,
so
I'll be there as well as Andy Marshall, our CFO, will be there as well. So thank you and have a good day.
Thank you.